Good morning, everyone. I'm Denise Smiler, Chair of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. I would like to thank everyone and ask you to please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices. Also, while masks are no longer mandatory, please feel free to wear a mask if you believe it is necessary or required for your own well-being. With 6 board members present and Commissioner Mark Mustio on the phone, I'd like to call today's meeting to order. In addition to the 7 board members, we also have our ex officio members, Kristen Heidingsfelder, representing Pat Brown, Acting Secretary for the Department of Revenue, Fred Strathmeyer, representing Russell Redding, Acting Secretary for the Department of Agriculture, and Jennifer Langen, representing Stacy Garrity, State Treasurer. Thank you all for joining us. As the first order of business, I'd like to ask everyone to please stand and join me in a recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By way of announcements, the board held an executive session yesterday, Tuesday, February 21st, to discuss personnel matters, pending litigation, and to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations relating to matters coming before the board. As a part of this job that is never pleasant, our next order of business is to recognize the service of Commissioner Mark Mustio to the board since his term has expired and he will be leaving us. For those of you who don't know, Mark has been with the board for 4 years, having been first appointed by Speaker of the House Mark Turzai in 2019 and reappointed by Speaker of the House Brian Cutler in 2021. Mark's prior public service includes being a township supervisor in Moon Township, as well as serving as a 16-year member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, where, among other accomplishments, he chaired the House Professional Licensure Committee. While doing all of that, Mark also had a full and successful private career in the insurance industry. Mark's broad array of experience and knowledge have been invaluable to the board, from being in the General Assembly when the original gaming bill and all of its subsequent amendments were introduced, debated, and passed, to his knowledge of professional licensure, to his ability to give his fellow board members the perspective of a local public official. His contributions to this board are impossible to overstate. I, for one, am going to miss you, Mark, and your incredible sense of humor. I thank you for everything you've done for this board. And I don't know if any of the board members would like to add anything before we put Mark's resolution before the board. Would you like to say anything?
No.
Mark, this is Dermody. It's been a pleasure serving with you here and in the House.
Mark, this is Sarah. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve with you. Thank you so much.
Good luck, Mark. Have fun in Florida.
This is Commissioner Ralston. I just want to echo everyone else and congratulating you being somewhere warm that we're not, but you will truly be missed.
Mark, this is Commissioner Dillon. It's been short and sweet tenure between us, but it was a pleasure getting to know you and meet you, and I wish you nothing but the best going forward.
As I mentioned, Mark, we have a resolution commemorating your service to the board. I'm not going to read it, since you'll have plenty of time to do that in Florida between rounds of golf. Rather, I'll simply ask for a motion on the resolution for Commissioner Mustio.
I move that we adopt the resolution recognizing Commissioner Mustio.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is adopted. Now we will hear from Mount Airy No. 1 LLC and the Office of Enforcement Counsel on Mount Airy's Category 2 license renewal. I would ask if there are any non-attorneys who will be presenting evidence today in this proceeding that they please stand and be sworn in by the court reporter at this time. Thank you. I'd also ask that anyone who is going to speak to please state and spell your name for the court reporter prior to your presentation. And with that, Mount Airy, you may begin.
Madam Chair, honorable members of the board, may it please the board, Nick Rodriguez-Cairo on behalf of Mount Airy. As you are aware, Mount Airy is here today before this honorable board for its renewal. We think that Mount Airy has shown by clear and convincing evidence that it has met all the criteria for its renewal. And without further ado, I will introduce Todd Greenberg, Ben Koff, and I'll also note for the record that the spelling of the names for myself, Ben, and Todd have already been submitted to the court reporter.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. And it's my pleasure to introduce our new Chief Operating Officer and General Manager, Benjamin Koff. I know that Mount Airy will have a very bright future underneath his leadership. And without any further ado, I will turn it over to Ben.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the board. I'm happy to be here and proud to represent the over 800 employees of Mount Airy Casino Resort in the Pocono Mountains. So we'll just dive into the property overview. You got the clicker?
I do have the clicker.
Yeah.
I had one job. I forgot to thank the Chair Smiler, the commissioners, everybody else who was here. So far, you can tell why there's a new general manager and chief operating officer. I can't even handle the clicker responsibilities. Here we go. And now I think am I up to speed now?
Now we're good to go. Now
Okay.
we'll jump right into the property overview. So you might know us as the beautiful Mount Airy Lodge from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We purchased the surrounding land in 2004. In 2005, we had a renovation and a full demo to build our new luxury casino property. Our final Category 2 license was awarded in 2007. You might remember the iconic heart-shaped tubs. That was what we are known for.
This actual tub is now in my condo in Vegas.
Through the construction, our casino resort opened in 2007 with slots, multiple restaurants, retail outlets, golf, and 188 hotel rooms. We didn't just open a casino, we opened the full resort experience when those doors started for the first time. And we added table games in 2010. In terms of our location, we are in Northeast Pennsylvania. We are pulling from 3 states primarily. It's not just Pennsylvania, but we are also pulling in guests and resort members from New York and New Jersey as well. Present day, we are offering the full casino experience, slots, tables, sportsbook, lottery. Our hotel, we did add another 96 rooms, and we'll talk about that shortly. So we're at 284. Our resort, again, a full resort experience, multiple dining options, a luxury spa, fitness center, and pool, an 18-hole professional golf course, 24,000 square feet of indoor event space, and an outdoor pavilion. And we're sitting on 900 plus acres, beautiful acres. Our gaming floor has over 1,600 slots, 83 tables. We have a full sports wagering and poker room and lottery kiosks on the gaming floor and the front desk. In terms of our online footprint, we have playmountairy.com. We started an online partnership with the Stars Group. We launched in 2019. That has generated $10 million in sports wagering license fees for the Commonwealth, $10 million in online casino license fees, and we have additional ongoing tax contributions to the state of Pennsylvania. In terms of investment, we have invested over $500 million in capital, with $68 million of that in the past 6 years. So in terms of our recent capital investment, in 2019, we made a $44 million capital expansion. We added an additional 96 4-diamond luxury rooms, AAA 4-diamond, and we had an additional 16,000 square feet of 5-diamond event space. Also recently, in 2019, we added $2.5 million sports wagering and poker room. We redid that area. And since 2018, we've invested another $25 million in capital investments, $2.5 million for hotel room upgrades, $7.5 million for slot and table game purchases, and an additional $15 million on various other property upgrades. For our operations, we are proud to say we are the first casino resort in Pennsylvania to receive the AAA 4-Diamond Award. We've had it every year since 2010. And that actually includes, I mean, this is the only typo that is in this presentation. We just recently, this past week, got our 13th year of being a 4-Diamond facility. So we're very, very proud of that. It's awarded to less than 6% of the hotels in the U.S., and we also have the AAA 4-Diamond Award for Inspected Clean designation, and we'll touch more on that in a moment. In terms of our hotel rooms, as mentioned, we have 4 and 5 Diamond AAA hotel rooms, luxury hotel rooms, some of the best in the market, some of the best in Pennsylvania. We're very proud of that. In terms of our dining options, we have a Bistecca by El Molino, a Guy Fieri's Mount Pocono Kitchen. In addition to some other outlets, we have a pizzeria, a buffet, a noodle and sushi bar, and a Starbucks, because you got to have your coffee fix. We also have a $6 million indoor-outdoor ultra pool. Wonderful experience for our guests as well, just completing the entire 4-Diamond resort experience. We also have a beautiful 18-hole championship golf course. It was rated one of the top 100 municipal courses in the country, I believe by Sports Illustrated, correct? And based on, each hole is based on a different hole from one of the championship golf courses around the country. So you can play the entire states, the best of. It's the greatest hits of golf. Really great. And then also, we have our 5-Diamond Event Center that I mentioned earlier that we've expanded. We do concerts, weddings, large-scale group events in this facility. In terms of our COVID response, in 2020, team members were provided benefits at no cost during the first COVID closure, plus 3 weeks pay with tip stipend. All team members were paid in full for the entire second closure. We also provided tipped employees with a stipend along with their wages. And we have done over $200,000 in investment for PPE supplies and COVID mitigation efforts to ensure the safety of team members and guests, and those cleanliness initiatives are still ongoing on our property.
By the way, if somebody needs 500,000 wet naps, I think we have some in our warehouse.
Yeah. In terms of property safety, we've invested in a new security mobile unit to patrol the property 24/7 to ensure public safety. We continue to invest in enhanced external communication and signage for public safety. And we also have a certified safety committee. The team members from all departments, they meet monthly to discuss all areas of concern. Not only do we identify them, but we address them in each meeting. In terms of compliance commitments, very focused on the underage gaming and unattended minor prevention. We have signage placed at all entrances, internally and externally. So every point of entry, there's multiple places where we're talking about it. We've again invested in a mobile unit for security to roam the property 24/7, including our parking lots. We've still invested around $80,000 to $100,000 just most recently. And the whole goal is to continue to invest and adjust, providing a great customer experience, but still keeping in compliance with all laws and regulations.
And Ben, as I discussed with you the other day, the last time the commissioners were out, we had 13 signs up about leaving minors unattended. We've now increased that to 27 signs, and you'll find it at pretty much every entrance, all the ingress, egress, both inside and outside. So we're taking that matter very seriously.
We are very proud of all the awards that we win, both locally, regionally, and then nationwide. Just recognizing us, there's nothing like the third-party credibility of having our guests tell us we're one of the best in the country in terms of our facility.
I know this is the slide you've been waiting for, Chair.
We also offer quality entertainment, concerts, first-class entertainment, comedians in our event center where, again, we are a resort experience. It's not just gaming. It's not the only form of entertainment that we are offering. In terms of a financial overview, through 2022, we have paid $1.5 billion in gaming taxes and fees. In terms of property taxes, $38 million we have paid. We are the largest taxpayer in Monroe County for 16 years. In our payroll taxes, we've paid $10 million in state payroll taxes. Through 2022, in terms of vendor spend, $507 million has been paid for goods and services. 218 of that has been paid to Pennsylvania business entities, and $49 million to minority and women-owned businesses. In addition to that, this is one of those areas in terms of diversity spend we're constantly working on. We're working with the Bureau of Diversity and Inclusion for other business opportunities, the Women Business Enterprise Council, the Office of Economic Opportunity, along with going to diversity vendor fairs in the area, continually to work on this investment. We are financially viable. We have a 5-year comprehensive refinancing that was completed in June of 2021. We continue to be in compliance with all loan covenants, and the company has maintained a strong operating cash position while managing our debt. So we're doing a great job with that. So in terms of commitments delivered, we've had $1.5 billion in taxes, fees, and other contributions that have gone to the Commonwealth and local communities. That also goes into corporate giving with various charitable entities throughout the year. In terms of our employment statistics, we have a very diverse workforce. 43% of the total workforce are minority team members. That includes almost 40% of management. 42% of our workforce is women. They comprise 34% of management and 20% of the executive team. That includes the CEO, the CFO, our VP of Human Resources, and our Executive Director of Security. In that local workforce, Pennsylvania residents make up more than 96% of Mount Airy's team members, with 92% of those residing locally within the 7 counties, our county and then the adjacent ones. We have paid $478 million in wages and benefits to our team members. We offer a competitive benefit package available to all full-time members: medical, vision, dental, telemedicine, paid time off, 401k match, and free employee meals for all team members, and free basic life for all team members, just the baseline. In the previous 3-year period, in terms of internal promotions and room for growth, 55% of our internal promotions were minority candidates, and more than 50% of our total promotions have been women. Additionally, our Mount Airy Casino Resort team members have access to employee assistant programs. We have bonus incentive and retention programs, company-paid uniforms, as well as license fees, and we offer a free table game school for those who want to become a dealer. For the community, we have monetarily contributed or sponsored $1.7 million to over 100 local organizations since 2007. And we also manage the Mount Airy Foundation, which earmarks 5% of our net income to 501c3 organizations. We've dispersed over $1 million since 2017. And with that, I thank you for your time and any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Office of Enforcement Counsel, do you have any questions?
Yes, we have a few questions. Thomas Monahan, Monaghan, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Turn to slide 24, the compliance commitments. You mentioned the entry points. Are there other areas of the property where the unattended minor signage is located?
Yeah, we actually, we could get you photos, but right now we have 12 double-sided signs that are outside in all of the parking areas, and then it's also in the hotel lobby. It's pretty much in every area that you could think of where people are walking. So it's hotel lobby. I know we're also down by the Starbucks coffee in our bus lobby. We've got one by our pizza restaurant because it's contiguous to the casino floor. We also have one from our casino gift shop because you can get off of elevators over there. And if council would like, we'd be glad to send you photos of where all the signs are located.
Sounds good. Have there been any changes to surveillance in the parking areas to further assist in preventing unattended minors?
I believe besides the fact that we now have a vehicle that goes across 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that way we're able to check the cars. We've been very fortunate in only having a couple of occasions. I think there've been like 2 or 3 minors in cars in the past couple of years. But we are very cognizant of that and are making sure that that's a priority for everyone.
Have there been any changes during the renewal period to address preventing underage patrons from accessing the gaming floor?
Yeah, we're, besides the fact that we did some retraining in November and December of the year, and that we're consistently emphasizing that. We are currently experimenting with being 21 and over for all areas except for the convention center. We do have some people who are grandfathered in if they made reservations a few months ago, but we now no longer accept reservations for people who have minors. So, we view our property as an adult playground and a 21 and over, and we really don't encourage, a lot of places will have an arcade or other areas where children might be able to spend time or might be attracted to, and we really don't have that. So we're doing everything we can to let people know that we're 21 and over. And in fact, now when sometimes people come to dine, they're no longer allowed to dine there unless they were grandfathered. And we've actually come up with a list of local businesses that do welcome people who are under 21. And we give them that list, and we even give them coupons to go and attend the other properties.
Turning to slide 34 is the team member commitment. You mentioned the $478 million paid in wages and benefits. Can you clarify, is that since opening or is that during the renewal period?
That's since opening.
Got it. And pursuant to the terms of a board-approved consent agreement at the September 22 public board meeting, Mount Airy agreed to update its internal controls to create and fill a director of compliance position. Have those internal controls been submitted?
We have created the director of compliance position. That's a gentleman named Kevin Katzok, and I'm not sure, Nick, have we submitted all of our new?
To the best of my knowledge, we have not submitted them yet. They are being worked on, and we're waiting for the compliance director to opine on them.
Got it. I have no more questions.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Commissioner Manzano Diaz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question I have regarding your security upgrades, does that also include infrared cameras?
We do not have infrared cameras. We've upgraded a lot of our equipment, both in surveillance and also with ID checking, but we do not have infrared cameras.
Okay. With regard to minority supplier diversity, could you provide us with a breakdown in terms of minority, in terms of African American, Latino, Asian groups that you work with? I mean, in terms of in the aggregate.
Yeah, unfortunately, besides that $1 amount, which I'm not even sure if we had it separated out, and I know you had asked last time, and we're starting to separate that out. And Ben has really been making an effort with our purchasing team to make sure that we're more aggressive about coming out and making sure that we work more with the community. And in the future, we will break it out. And in addition, I would like to say that out of our last 62 promotions within the property, that 55% or 34 or 34 of the 62 went to minority team members. 28% of those went to Hispanic or Latino team members. Another 17% went to African American team members. And then another 10% was divided between Asian, indigenous, and 2 or more races.
Okay.
So we really are trying our best. You know, sometimes when you're a larger company and you're dealing with things like Cisco or American Foods, you know, or construction or other things like that, there aren't as many suppliers because they're such capital-intensive businesses. But we know that it's our responsibility to reach out and do better and find more businesses that we can help and help them grow within the community. And I think Ben's done a great job on starting us on that path, and we will start breaking those numbers out for you.
I appreciate it because it makes it a lot easier to see the minorities that you are promoting, and like you were saying, the breakdown that you have in your head, but that wasn't on the presentation, but also with regard to the minority supplier diversity as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have a question, a follow-up on supplier diversity, because under the construction, you have 0 minority or women suppliers. I don't know if you plan to do any more renovations, construction, but it would be nice if you could try to do a little more reach out to get some women or minority in the construction area, which tends to be a pretty high dollar area, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned when our colleagues here were here from Valley Forge, you had I believe it was you, Madam Chair, who mentioned getting larger operators and suppliers to pair with a minority business to get them on board, and that resonated. That actually was instruction that we have given to our purchasing department. Start bringing in, making those inroads. Sometimes it's us who needs to make the connection, and us just make the ask. And that was heard loud and clear. We thought it's a great idea, and that's how one of the things we're implementing in place to build that up.
Excellent. I'm glad somebody listens to me. Okay.
I did just have one question. In reference to the grandfather approach that you're taking with the restaurants, have you seen that to affect the number of guests? Have you seen it decline? Attendees who want to patronize the restaurants?
I mean, one of the things we looked at is we estimated in the hotel that it would be 3 to 5%, except during the busy season, we were hoping that we'd still be able to sell, so maybe it wouldn't be that much. You know, we definitely see some less, like some families that were coming to the buffet on the weekends, and maybe some people who are going to Guy's, or Kalahari gets so crowded that a lot of times we would get that overflow. So while there is a small amount of decline, we're hoping that by emphasizing the fact that we are adult only, that maybe that will attract some more people, and we're trying to emphasize more of the resort nature. So, hey, this is a place where you can come and it's a getaway, and you can get a massage, and you can eat in a nice steakhouse, and there aren't going to be, you know, I live in Las Vegas, where if you want to take your kids to a movie or bowling or whatever, you have to go to a casino. And there are, hundreds of kids running around. And we're trying to emphasize that this is really going to be a place to get away. So while there is a slight decline, we think we'll be able to more than make up for it.
Okay, no, I thought it was a very interesting approach that you guys are taking. It'd be interesting to see down the line what the numbers looks like.
Yeah, and we're always... I'll admit I'm always somewhat concerned, when we do things like that, because, as you know, an empty hotel room is kind of like a steak going bad, right? You can't get it back. But we felt it was worth the trade-off of maybe losing a little bit of revenue to make sure that we were doing the right thing.
No, we appreciate you taking the next step and trying different approaches to try to mitigate that issue. So,
Any other questions or comments? If not, Enforcement Counsel, do you have a presentation?
Thomas Monahan, once again with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. We do not have a formal presentation, but I'd like to make a statement for the record. In advance of today's hearing, OEC provided Mount Airy and the board with updates to information that was previously provided at Mount Airy's public input hearing on August 3rd, 2022. These updates were generated by the Pennsylvania State Police, Bureau of Gaming Enforcement, Pennsylvania State Police, Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement, and the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Gaming Enforcement arrest statistics summary for Mount Airy does not indicate any areas of significance. The Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement has indicated no actions have been taken against Mount Airy since the public input hearing, and the Department of Revenue has confirmed that Mount Airy's tax accounts are current. OEC requests these documents marked as OEC Exhibit 1A, OEC Exhibit 2A, and OEC Exhibit 4A respectively be admitted into the record. Additionally,
No objection?
No
Okay,
objection.
Thank you.
Additionally, OEC provided Mount Airy and the board with copies of the consent agreements and warning letter, along with Mount Airy's response that were issued since the public input hearing. OEC requests that Exhibits 5A and 7A, which include 2 consent agreements and 1 warning letter issued by OEC since the public input hearing, and Mount Airy's response thereto are admitted into the record, and further that requests that Exhibit 7A be marked as confidential. Finally, OEC would like to note for the record that it has submitted the final background investigation report to the board, and the Bureau of Licensing has submitted the renewal suitability report to the board, which encompasses reports from all of the necessary offices and bureaus within the Pennsylvania Game and Control Board. At this time, OEC is available for any questions the board may have.
And Counsel, do you have any other objections to anything he?
Madam Chair, no, I confirm receipt of those documents, and we have no objection to their admission.
Thank you. Mount Airy, do you have any questions for the Office of Enforcement Counsel?
I just had one follow-up question for Mr. Greenberg as it relates to the signs. Council asked you about the signs, and you basically described all the signs we have at the entrance and egress of the casino. We do have a number of signs outside in the parking lot, is that correct?
Yeah, we have 12 double-sided signs outside and 15 signs inside.
Okay, thank you.
Enforcement Counsel, do you have any response to the question that was just asked?
No, nothing, no response.
Any board member have any questions or comments for Enforcement Counsel? No? Is there anything?
Madam Chair, I'll just move for
I was
the
going to-
admission
Go
of
ahead.
the presentation and the evidence and testimony.
Any objection, Enforcement
No objection.
Counsel? Anything else that you would like to add, Mount Airy? Anything else you would like to add, Enforcement Counsel?
No, nothing further.
Okay, well, thank you. That concludes this proceeding. This matter will be put before the board for a vote later today during the Bureau of Licensing portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up is consideration of a motion to approve the board meetings, transcripts, and minutes. May I have a motion to approve the transcripts and minutes of the board's November 16th, 2022, and December 14th, 2022 meetings?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the minutes and transcripts of both the November 16, 2022 meeting and December 14, 2022 meeting.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted. Next, we will hear from Executive Director Kevin O'Toole.
Good morning, Chair Smiler and members of the board. Good morning, Mark. I just wanted to express my appreciation on behalf of the staff for your significant contribution to our agency over the past 4 years. Thank you very much.
Mark, are you still with us?
I am, and very humbled.
Just checking. Thank you.
So my executive director's report this morning will focus on 2 news releases, both issued coincidentally last Friday, February 17th. So when I read these 2 news releases, I felt that there was an existing story to be told that evidences the enormous breadth of positive effects that the casino industry in Pennsylvania provide to the entire Commonwealth. So that first document is our normal monthly report where our Office of Communications records the performance from a revenue-producing perspective and from a tax-producing perspective in the Commonwealth. So January's report was another outstanding report. The figures that I look at in particular are gross gaming revenue from all sources that we regulate, and that was $464,488,191, which happens to be the second best month that we've ever had, and especially the second best month since our expanded gambling initiatives for online gaming came on board 3.5 years ago. That's a surprise because January is usually not a record-setting month. But January 2023 did not go by that normal routine of taking a break. Now, the best month was December of 2022. So we're on certainly a good 2-month streak, if not longer. The other figure that I look at all the time is how much taxes were generated by the casino industry. Currently, we have 17 land-based casinos. We have 18 iGaming operators. We have 14 sports wagering operators. We have 7 or 8 fantasy contest operators, and we have approximately 70 eligible truck stops with VGTs. So the taxes generated were $188,321,533 for just the month of January 2023. So the second document is a news report that came out of the Washington Observer Reporter, written by Mike Jones. He's a well-known reporter in Washington County, Pennsylvania. And he's written articles in previous years about this topic. So the title of this article was Commissioners Approve $8 Million in LSA Grants for 45 Projects. So what Mr. Jones was reporting on was that the Washington County commissioners had considered how they were going to use local share assessment funds that are provided all throughout the Commonwealth to various counties and for the benefit of municipalities and county governments. Local share assessment grants is a portion of that tax revenue. It's generally a 2% add-on assessment to all of the various forms of gaming in Pennsylvania. It really was a remarkable provision in the Pennsylvania Racehorse Development and Gaming Act that was enacted in 2004, modified somewhat in 2006, and got the industry, the slot machine industry going in this jurisdiction. But right from the get-go, the legislature, and Governor Rendell, when he signed that bill, signed it with an enormous number of provisions about local share assessments. How was the casino industry going to benefit the largest number of constituents in Pennsylvania? And they did that through LSAs. So this 2% tax, there's a lot of agencies involved. DCED is involved. The Commonwealth Financing Agency is involved. County Board of Commissioners are involved. I'm not ready to give you a lesson on all the interactions there, but you get the point. And what it does is it provides funding to counties, and they receive grants. They receive project proposals from anybody within that jurisdiction as to what money they would like to have awarded to them and what their project would be. And this article says there was approximately 80 proposals before the Board of Commissioners, and they have a committee that review each of those proposals, and they came up with 40 to 45 projects that they decided to fund for 2023. Those projects were very interesting. The ones that are mentioned in this article are projects earmarked for community improvement, public interest projects including water and sewer system upgrades, small town revitalization projects to demolish dilapidated buildings, and projects designed to improve the Main Street business districts within the municipalities within Washington County. Now, Washington County, as all of us probably know, is in southwestern Pennsylvania, and it is the county where Hollywood Casino at the Meadows is located. Although it's not necessary that you be in a county where a land-based casino is located to benefit from local share assessments. That's where the Commonwealth Financing Agency comes into play. So the point that I wanted to make is to show the connection between these two news reports. So the tax revenue paid by the casino industry as local share assessments, which we see from our monthly reports the total amount of taxes, is the direct causal chain for the flow of funding to the county commissioners, so that the county commissioners can select projects, 40-plus projects, and they can spend $80 million on municipal and county-wide projects. Many of these projects, under normal funding through property taxes, probably wouldn't get funded if it wasn't for local share assessments. And it's very important to note, Washington County is only one example. This is an example that multiplies itself 60 times all throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And it's important to note that, we owe a debt of gratitude to the management teams. We saw one here today, but those management teams are out there working really hard to ensure the flow of revenue continues and that it continues to improve, which it has done over the 16 years that we've had gambling here in legalized gambling, regulated gambling here in Pennsylvania. So this process provides that much-needed funding to county and municipal governments. The legislature, at every time that there's been an expansion of gambling, whether it's 2010 with table games, 2017 with online gaming, sports wagering, VGTs, they have always included provisions that assess local share assessments on those new revenue sources. So that's really commendable. So to close, I hope I was able to bring together the importance of gaming revenues in Pennsylvania generated by regulated casino licensees and how a portion of that tax revenue is used in ways that benefits towns and communities throughout the Commonwealth. That's my report for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. That's an excellent report. Thank you for connecting those dots for everybody.
And I'm glad my itchy throat didn't act up on me.
Yeah. We will now hear from Claire Yantis, Administrative Director, and Elizabeth Lanza, Director of Compulsive and Problem Gambling. It's not supposed to last, though.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm here today to introduce a board resolution.
Liz, can you state your name and spell it for the
Oh,
court
sure.
reporter,
I'm
please?
sorry. I believe she has the spelling. My name is Liz Lanza, and I am the director of the Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm here today to introduce a board resolution recognizing March 2023 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Problem Gambling Awareness Month, or PGAM, is a national campaign intended to bring recognition to gambling disorder and to promote prevention, treatment, and educational efforts related to the addiction. According to the National Council on Problem Gambling, approximately 2 to 4% of the U.S. population will develop a gambling disorder at some point in their lives. While this is a small percentage of the population, this signifies around 400,000 Pennsylvanians who meet the diagnostic criteria for this addiction. It's also important to remember that for every individual who suffers from gambling disorder, there are many others, like the individual's family, friends, or employer, who may be directly affected. As the successful expansion of gambling continues across Pennsylvania and across the nation as a whole, we must remain diligent in providing protections for all participants. Prevention programs and responsible gambling tools and resources should be in place to keep gambling behavior at safe levels. And for those who ultimately develop a gambling disorder, we must ensure that there is a strong treatment and recovery infrastructure available across the state. I would like to thank the board employees and licensees, and our partnering agencies and organizations like the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, the Pennsylvania Lottery, and the Pennsylvania Council on Compulsive Gambling for your support and partnership in bringing awareness to problem gambling resources available in Pennsylvania. I now ask the board to adopt the resolution recognizing March 2023 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Thank you for your time.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the resolution 2023-2 CPG as described by the Director of Compulsive and Problem Gambling.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And now we will have Claire Yantis bringing before us the business of the Office of Human Resources.
I believe the court reporter has the spelling of my name as well, Claire Yantis, Administrative Director. The Office of Human Resources has 2 motions for your consideration today relative to the hiring of 2 individuals and ratification of the hiring of 1 individual per the authority granted to the Executive Director for vacancies. Ryan Morris is recommended for hire as an electronics engineer in the gaming laboratory. Ryan has completed the PGCB background investigation and drug screening process and is recommended for hire by Heather Warner, Director of Gaming Laboratory Operations. Brandy Kurtz is recommended for hire as a licensing technician in the Bureau of Licensing. Brandy has also completed the PGCB background investigation and drug screening process and is recommended for hire by Sean Hannon, Director of Licensing. Additionally, James Feeney has been hired as a technical field representative at Mount Airy Casino. James's hiring was approved by Executive Director O'Toole on January 31st, 2023, in order to ensure appropriate staffing at the Northeast casinos. This action is consistent with the board's order of July 14th, 2021, delegating authority to the Executive Director to approve hiring of individuals between board meetings. Per that same order, finalization of any hiring between board meetings is contingent upon the board ratifying the Executive Director's action. Unless you have any questions, I ask that the board consider 2 motions. First, a motion to approve the hiring of Ryan Morris and Brandy Kurtz. Second, a motion to ratify the hiring of James Feeney.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion on the applicants for hire as proposed by the Administrative Director?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the applicants for hire as proposed by the Administrative Director.
Commissioner Manzano-Diaz second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted. Now may I have a motion to ratify the hiring of board staff as described by the Administrative Director?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board ratify the hiring of board staff as described by the Administrative Director.
Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. We will now hear from the Office of Chief Counsel.
Morning. Our first agenda item relates to a temporary regulation which Assistant Chief Counsel Robert Wood will present.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Assistant Chief Counsel Robert Wood, W-O-O-D. Today I have one item for the board's consideration, temporary reg package 125-243. This package is comprised of Player's Edge 21, a variation on Spanish 21, a board-approved game, Rising Phoenix Baccarat, a variation of Baccarat, Golden Talons, a Baccarat side wager, and Harmony Progressive, also a Baccarat side wager. Prior to this board's meeting, a copy of the proposed regulations have been provided to the board. If there are no questions at this time, I would ask for a motion by the board to adopt temporary reg package 125-243.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board adopt temporary regulation 125-243 regarding table game side wagers and variations as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
I'm sorry, for the benefit of the court reporter, I'm Steve Cook, C-O-O-K, Chief Counsel. Next before the board today are three petitions. The petitions will be decided on the documentary record by agreement of the parties or because the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the requested relief. In each of these matters, the board has in advance of this meeting been provided with the complete evidentiary record, the matters are all now ripe for the board's consideration. The first petition before the board today is a joint request by Bald Eagle Truck Stop, Inc. and Man and Sidhu, LLC, seeking approval for a change of control. Bald Eagle Truck Stop, Inc. is a Pennsylvania corporation operating a truck stop location in Clinton County, Pennsylvania. The truck stop obtained a video gaming terminal truck stop establishment license in April of 2019, and they presently operate 5 video gaming terminals on property. In August of 2022, Bald Eagle entered into an agreement of sale which proposed to sell 100% of its ownership interests to Sidhu and Man, LLC, a Pennsylvania limited liability company. If approved, the truck stop would continue to operate under the same name, and the branding would remain the same, but it would have new ownership. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the request for a change of control, subject to conditions outlined in their answer, including the appropriate licensure of the new owners, which I believe you may be voting on later today. OEC also has no objection to the petitioner's request for confidentiality regarding certain details of the proposed transaction, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant Bald Eagle Truck Stop and Man Sidhu's LLC's petition as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined in the board's order. I further move that the petitioner's request for confidentiality be granted.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a request to recover funds confiscated from a self-excluded person while he was on the self-exclusion list. As the board is aware, when a self-excluded person is found in a Pennsylvania casino, the Gaming Act dictates that any winnings possessed by the person be confiscated and used to support compulsive and problem gambling programs. By way of background, on November 17th, 2021, an individual with the initials ES placed himself on the self-exclusion list, choosing the lifetime self-exclusion option. On August 7th, 2022, while on the self-exclusion list, ES anonymously entered and gamed at Parks Casino, playing a slot machine and table games. ES was on the gaming floor for approximately 2 hours before he was identified as self-excluded and escorted out of the poker room part of the gaming floor. At that time, casino staff confiscated $1,419 from ES. On October 24th, 2022, ES filed his petition requesting that the full $1,419 confiscated from him be returned, as the money was not winnings, but rather his own personal funds. OEC, after investigating the matter, filed an answer to the request acknowledging that they were unable to determine whether the source of the funds confiscated from ES were in fact winnings due to a significant portion of the surveillance video from the day in question not being saved. As a result, due to insufficient evidence regarding what portion of the amount confiscated were in fact winnings, OEC does not object to the full return of $1,419 to ES, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? I understand the Office of Enforcement Counsel is looking at whether it was proper for those surveillance tapes to have been erased or truncated. I'm not sure exactly what they did.
Somebody's going to give us
Okay. Thank you, Cyrus. Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant ES petition as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and that ES recover the $1,419 confiscated from him.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The final petition before the board today is a request for removal from the self-exclusion list. In June 2012, an individual with the initials SK placed himself on the self-exclusion list and chose the lifetime exclusion option. In November 2022, SK filed his request for removal from the list, stating that he was young when he placed himself on the list and that he viewed gambling as a way to generate income, thereby minimizing his risk of losses, leading ultimately to financial troubles and problem gambling. He additionally stated that since that time, he has matured, now owns a business and has a stable income, and recognizes gambling as a form of entertainment, which could result in his losing money. In accordance with the board's regulations, SK provided with his petition a problem gambling assessment verification form signed by a certified assessment provider, confirming that an assessment of SK was performed and that no problem gambling treatment was being recommended. More than 10 years having passed since his self-exclusion, the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to SK's removal from the self-exclusion list, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant SK's petition as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and that SK be removed from the self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next, presenting withdrawals and reports and recommendations will be Deputy Chief Counsel Chad Zimmerman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chad Zimmerman, Zimmermann. The next matter before you today pertains to several unopposed petitions to withdraw applications or surrender the credentials of the following individuals and entities: Jonathan Ozark, Christopher Holdren, Lori Diesel, Apollo Gaming Holdings LP, James Dorr, Eileen Fain Rainey, Fran Tax, Toby Bental, Anthony McDuffie, Kevin James O'Connor, Daniel Silvers, Fubo Gaming Inc., Fubo TV Inc., and Edgar Miles Bronfman. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objections to any of these withdrawals or surrenders. As a result, if the board chooses to grant the request, it would be doing so without prejudice to the requester. These matters are all now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board issue orders to approve the withdrawals and surrenders as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board's consideration are 8 reports and recommendations received from the Office of Hearings and Appeals. These reports and recommendations, along with the evidentiary record for each hearing, have been provided to the board in advance of today's meeting. Additionally, the persons involved have each been notified that the board would be considering their matter today and that each have the ability to come forward and briefly address the board. If any of the persons who are the subject to one of these reports and recommendations would like to address the board, I would ask that they come forward when their matter is called. William Tibbetts' matter is the first report and recommendation before the board today. On October 5th, 2021, Mr. Tibbetts submitted his application for a Gaming Level 2 employee occupation permit. He was issued a temporary credential and was currently working as a sportsbook supervisor for Live Casino Pittsburgh. On June 28, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel sent Mr. Tibbet a notice recommending the denial of his application, asserting he is not suitable to hold the gaming level 2 permit due to being in arrears on property and school district taxes. A hearing in this matter was held on August 30th, 2022. Both OEC and Mr. Tibbet appeared at the hearing. However, prior to the hearing, the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Mr. Tibbet entered into a stipulation of fact which contained all relevant exhibits that the parties agreed to make as part of the record. OEC did not present any additional evidence beyond the stipulation. Mr. Tibbet then testified on his own behalf. According to the parties' stipulation, Mr. Tibbet owns real property that was purchased in 1982 and owes back taxes on that property. Mr. Tibbet testified that after he purchased the property, he rented out a duplex that was located there, and in 1986 or 1987, the duplex was destroyed by a fire. The property became a vacant lot, and the mortgage was paid off by the insurance company from the proceeds of the funds, and subsequently he had clean title to the property. He further stated that the city continued to tax him as though a building had remained on the property despite being a vacant lot. So he hired an attorney to challenge the tax assessments. He testified that in 1990, he and the city agreed that he would turn the property over to them in lieu of continued payment of taxes. It wasn't until he underwent the background investigation for the gaming level 2 employee occupation permit that Mr. Tibbet learned that the city had continued to charge him taxes on the property and that he was still the title owner, despite the fact that the tax amounts had been reduced due to the fact that the building had been destroyed by the fire. Mr. Tibbet further testified that the attorney who handled the tax issue on his behalf was retired and no longer had records of the proceeding where he hired him, including the transfer of property. He also stated that he has not paid any taxes on the property since 1987, and even though he can afford to do so now, he's not willing to pay the taxes because that would be admitting ownership on a property he believes he no longer owns. A report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Tibbet's gaming level 2 occupation permit application be denied, but that he be allowed to reapply early should he resolve the delinquent tax matters, including setting up a payment plan on the amounts. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings as appealed, as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that William Tibbet's application for a gaming level 2 employee occupation permit be denied. It is further ordered that Mr. Tibbet may reapply for a gaming level 2 employee occupation permit early should all delinquent tax issues be resolved.
Commissioner Manzano-Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Devon Warren is the next report and recommendation before the board today. Mr. Warren was granted a non-gaming employee registration to work as a barback at Hollywood Casino Morgantown. On November 3rd, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for an emergency suspension of Mr. Warren's registration after receiving notice that on July 14th, 2022, he had been criminally charged for failing to disclose his criminal history on an application to purchase a firearm, a criminal history which includes a 2012 felony robbery and 2014 theft adjudication of delinquency. As a result of the 2022 charges, the board's executive director issued the emergency suspension of Mr. Warren's registration. A hearing was held in this matter on December 1st, 2022. OEC appeared at the hearing offering testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Warren appeared and testified on his own behalf. Mr. Warren testified that he was a juvenile at the time of his robbery conviction and therefore did not believe it was still on his record. And as such, he did not intentionally lie about his criminal record on the application. Based on the evidence received, the report and recommendation issued, and this matter recommends that the suspension of Mr. Warren's registration remain in effect. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that the suspension of Devin Warren's non-gaming employee registration remain in effect.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to Alan Anderson. On July 25th, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Alan Anderson on the involuntary exclusion list, alleging that on June 2nd, 2021, Mr. Anderson left an 8-year-old child unattended in his vehicle while he gamed at Presque Isle Downs Casino. A hearing in this matter was held November 8th, 2022. OEC appeared and presented documentary and testimonial evidence, and Mr. Anderson failed to appear at the hearing, which was held in his absence. Evidence presented at the hearing showed that Mr. Anderson left the 8-year-old child unattended in his vehicle and entered Presque Isle Downs Casino to engage in sports wagering. Presque Isle security was notified of the unattended minor, and PSP were notified. Mr. Anderson was away from the vehicle for approximately 9 minutes, and no criminal charges were filed against Mr. Anderson. Subsequent to the hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Anderson be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list, and this board matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt, in part, the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Alan Anderson be placed on the involuntary exclusion list based upon all of the legal grounds brought by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
David Erkin's report and recommendation is next before the board. On July 26, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place David Erkins on the involuntary exclusion list, alleging that he attempted to game with counterfeit bills. A hearing in this matter was held on November 3, 2022. OEC appeared and presented testimonial and documentary evidence, and Mr. Erkin appeared and testified on his own behalf. Evidence presented at the hearing documented that on December 19, 2021, Mr. Erkins was at Rivers Casino Pittsburgh and attempted to buy into a craps table with a $100 and a $20 bill. The bills were determined to be counterfeit and turned over to the United States Secret Service. Mr. Erkins was originally criminally charged with both felony and misdemeanor offenses. However, those charges were later dismissed. Mr. Erkins testified that he had received the bills from a friend as a result of a previous wager that they had placed, and he placed them in his wallet without looking at the bills. He further stated that he did not know they were counterfeit until the table games dealer informed him of the fact that they were fake. Following the hearing, the report and recommendation was issued recommending the Office of Enforcement Counsel's petition be denied, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Chad, were they counterfeit or were they in props?
They were movie props that had insignia on them that reflected that they were not actual valid currency.
So they weren't actually counterfeit?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board reject the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that David Erkins be placed on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to John Mister. On August 10th, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place John Mister on the involuntary exclusion list, alleging that he cheated while gaming at Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack. A hearing in this matter was held November 1st, 2022. OEC appeared and presented testimony, surveillance, and documentary evidence. John Mister failed to appear at the hearing, and it was held in his absence. Evidence provided at the hearing showed that on December 13th, 2021, Mr. either pass posted or pinch bets on 4 occasions while playing blackjack. On his 5th attempt to pinch a bet, the dealer became aware of his behavior, made him return the chip, and the Pennsylvania State Police were notified. John Mister was then criminally charged and pleaded guilty to a summary offense, and he was permanently evicted from the casino. He did make a full restitution payment of $180 to the casino. A report and recommendation was issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals recommending that John Mister be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that John Mister be placed on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Jukeas Sears is next before the board today. On May 3rd, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Mr. Sears on the board's involuntary exclusion list after it was discovered that on December 25th, 2021, Mr. Sears left two children, ages 13 and 5, unattended in his vehicle at Rivers Casino Pittsburgh while he gamed. Mr. Sears failed to initially respond to the petition, resulting in the Office of Enforcement Counsel filing a request to enter default judgment. However, prior to the board addressing the matter, Mr. Sears submitted a hearing request. That hearing was held on October 6 of 2022. OEC appeared presenting testimony, surveillance, and documentary evidence. Mr. Sears initially failed to appear at this hearing. Following the hearing, Mr. Sears contacted the Office of Hearings and Appeals to reschedule it, and that second hearing was held on October 27, 2022. OEC appeared, did not present any further evidence. Mr. Sears appeared and testified on his own behalf. Evidence received at both hearings offered shows that Mr. Sears left his daughters unattended in a vehicle for approximately 17 minutes while he entered the casino and placed wagers at a sportsbook kiosk. During that time, it was reported to security that there were minors unattended on the property. The security of the casino responded and located the two children in a vehicle. Mr. Sears returned to the vehicle and was confronted by security. The state police were notified, but after Mr. Sears arrived and left, the state police then arrived. He was permanently evicted from the casino. Mr. Sears testified that he understood it was wrong to leave children alone in a vehicle and takes responsibility for his actions. However, he further stated he did not realize that he was not allowed to leave the children because the 13-year-old is old enough to babysit the younger sibling at home. He further testified that he cooperated with security at the scene and no charges were being filed against him. Subsequently, the report and recommendation issued recommends that he be placed, Mr. Sears be placed on the involuntary exclusion list, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board adopt in part the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Jukeas Sears be placed on the involuntary exclusion list for at least 5 years pursuant to the board's regulations.
Commissioner Manzano-Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Christina Zick is the next report and recommendation before the board today. By way of background, on February 25th, 2015, the board placed Ms. Zick on the involuntary exclusion list by default judgment after it was found that in 2014, Ms. Zick took a wallet left on a slot machine chair by another patron at Sands Bethlehem. In May of 2020, Ms. Zick filed a petition requesting removal from the involuntary exclusion list. The Office of Enforcement Counsel objected to her request. 2 hearings were held in the matter, as Ms. Zick failed to attend the first hearing. The second hearing, which was held in September of 2020, Ms. Zick testified at that hearing, stating both at the time of the incident at Sands and since 2014, she had endured numerous personal ordeals, medical issues, and tragedies. She expressed remorse for her actions and conduct at the casino and stated that her placement on the list had caused her embarrassment. She has not visited a casino since being placed on the list, and she would like to be able to see shows at the casino and occasionally game online. Following the 2 hearings in 2020, the board issued an order denying her request to be removed from the involuntary exclusion list. On June 27, 2022, Ms. Zick filed her current request for removal from the list. OEC filed an answer objecting to the request, and a hearing was scheduled to be held on September 22, 2022. Ms. Zick failed to attend the hearing. OEC appeared and requested that the matter be decided on the record alone. Following a hearing, the report and recommendation was issued recommending that Ms. Zick be removed from the list as it has been almost 8 years since her placement on the list, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board reject the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Christina Zick remain on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Ralston, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's adopted.
The final report and recommendation before the board today stems from a request for removal from the self-exclusion list by an individual with the initials NP. On June 7, 2021, NP submitted a request through the board's website to be placed on the interactive gaming and the fantasy contest self-exclusion list, choosing the 5-year exclusion option. On August 10th, 2022, NP filed his petition requesting early removal from the list. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer objecting to the request. A hearing in this matter was held on November 8th, 2022. OEC appeared and presented testimony and documentary evidence. NP also appeared and testified on his own behalf. OEC presented evidence showing that NP had properly filled out all of the exclusion forms and signed all acknowledgments choosing his exclusion period, acknowledging that he was excluding himself from all Pennsylvania interactive gaming and fantasy contests related activities, and understanding that all casinos in Pennsylvania could choose to also exclude him from their brick and mortar facilities based on his placement on those lists. NP testified he was concerned that someone had been using his account when he discovered that points were added to his player's card, and upon his expressing his concern to a casino employee, was misdirected to the board's self-exclusion website. NP further testified that he missed the information on the forms warning him that he could be excluded from brick and mortar casinos. Subsequently, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that NP's requests for removal from the two self-exclusion lists be denied. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that NP remain on the iGaming and fantasy self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes the matters of the Office of Chief Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, Chad, and Robert. We will now have the Bureau of Licensing matters presented by the Director of the Bureau of Licensing, Sean Hannon.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Sean Hannon, Director of Licensing, Sean, S-E-A-N, Hannon, H-A-N-N-O-N. The first licensing matter for your consideration today is the renewal of Mount Airy No. 1 LLC's Category 2 license. The license renewal hearing for this entity is now complete. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report regarding the renewal. As a result, the license renewal is ready for your consideration. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to renew the Category 2 license for Mount Airy No. 1 LLC.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the Category 2 license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ralston would vote in the affirmative. She will be right back.
And I have no objection. I have no objection.
Thank you. all opposed? The motion is adopted.
The next licensing matter for your consideration is the renewal of the table game manufacturer license for Interblock Luxury Gaming Products, LLC, doing business as Interblock DOO. Interblock is a developer, manufacturer, and distributor of electronic table games. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report regarding the renewal. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to renew the table game manufacturer license for Interblock Luxury Gaming Products, LLC.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant the table game manufacturer license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano-Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
In addition, for your consideration is the renewal of the table game manufacturer designee license for Interblock USA, LC. Interblock USA is headquartered in Las Vegas, Nevada. They supply and maintain table game devices manufactured by Interblock Luxury Gaming Products. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report regarding the renewal. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to renew the table game manufacturer designee license for Interblock USA, LC.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board grant the table game manufacturer designee license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next, we have consideration of a VGT establishment license for Man and Sindhu Incorporated. Earlier in the meeting today, the board approved a change of control petition allowing for the acquisition of Man and Sindhu to acquire Bald Eagle Truck Stop Incorporated, an existing VGT establishment. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has now completed its investigation, including evaluation that the applicant meets the VGT establishment eligibility criteria in the Gaming Act. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to approve the VGT establishment license of Man and Sindhu Incorporated, located at 612 McElhatton Drive in McElhatton.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, there are principal, key employee, affiliate, principal entity licenses, principal entity qualifiers, and gaming service provider qualifiers. Bureau of Licensing provided you with a proposed order for 29 principals, 5 key employees, 8 affiliates, 1 principal entity qualifier, and 2 gaming service provider qualifiers. I ask the board consider the order approving these licenses and certifications.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the principal, key employee, principal affiliate, principal entity qualifier, and gaming service provider qualifier licenses as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
There are also principal and key employee temporary credentials. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order regarding the issuance of temporary credentials for 2 principals and 27 key employees. I ask the board consider the order approving these credentials.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the temporary principal and key employee credentials as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Additionally, for your consideration are gaming employee permits and non-gaming employee registrations. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a list of 902 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted temporary or full occupation permits and 300 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted registrations under the authority delegated to the Bureau of Licensing. I ask the board consider a motion approving the order.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the applications for gaming employee occupation permits and non-gaming employee registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next, there is a recommendation of denial for 4 gaming applicants, 4 non-gaming applicants, and 1 registered gaming service provider. The applicants were notified that they were being recommended for denial and failed to request a hearing within the specified timeframe. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with orders addressing the applicants who the Office of Enforcement Counsel has recommended for denial. I ask the board consider the order approving the denials.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel continues to request denial in each matter.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board deny the gaming and non-gaming employee and gaming service provider applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next matter for consideration is withdrawal request. In each case, the license, permit, or registration is no longer required. In today's meeting, I have provided the board with 2 key employees, 46 gaming employees, and 36 non-gaming applicants. I ask the board consider the orders approving these withdrawals.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the withdrawal of key employee, gaming, and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
In addition, we have an order to certify Internet Vikings East LLC, who is gaming service provider. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order certifying Internet Vikings East LLC.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the gaming service provider certification as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Finally, for your consideration are gaming service provider registrations. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order and an attached list of 11 registered gaming service provider applicants. I ask the board consider the order registering these gaming service providers.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the gaming service provider registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Next is Chief Enforcement Counsel Cyrus Petrie.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The Office of Enforcement Counsel will present 10 matters today for the board's consideration, in which we will request the approval of 1 suspension, 1 revocation, and 8 involuntary exclusions. The next 2 matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints seeking the suspension or revocation of an employee registration or gaming permit previously issued by this board. The complaints have been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individuals named in each complaint. The individual named in each complaint failed to respond in 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each matter and properly served the same upon each respondent. And therefore, the facts in each complaint are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Assistant Enforcement Counsel Steve Gorman, Gorman. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a suspension of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Akira Harcum. Ms. Harcum was previously employed as a cage cashier at Rivers, Philadelphia. Ms. Harcum was charged with felony false statement for purchase of firearms, felony tampering of public records, and misdemeanor unsworn falsification to authorities. The Philadelphia District Attorney's Office subsequently added misdemeanor illegal transfer firearm charges to the criminal case. In total, 27 charges are still pending, and the criminal case is scheduled for a hearing in May. Ms. Harcum is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board suspend the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Akira Harcum.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the suspension of Akira Harcum's gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Kelsey Scorado, SCI-RROTTO, Assistant Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Gary Hendricks. Mr. Hendricks was previously employed as a cleaning specialist at Wind Creek, Bethlehem. Mr. Hendricks pled guilty to felony theft for stealing a firearm and holster from a vehicle. In addition, Mr. Hendricks pled guilty to indirect criminal contempt, and on a third matter, he pled guilty to misdemeanor resisting arrest, theft, false identification, and summary harassment. Mr. Hendricks is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the non-gaming employee registration issued to Gary Hendricks.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the revocation of Gary Hendricks' non-gaming employee registration for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The remaining matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed petitions seeking the involuntary exclusion of individuals whose presence in a licensed facility are inimical to the interests of the Commonwealth and are licensed gaming therein. In each instance, the petition for exclusion has been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in the petition. The individual named in each petition failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each individual. Therefore, all facts in each petition are deemed admitted, all filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each instance, if the board orders a proposed exclusion, each individual's photo, personal identifiers, and a summary of their inimical conduct may be placed on the board's public website. Once again, in each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Daishan Pak on the board's involuntary exclusion list. This matter involved two incidents. First, Mr. Pak cheated and colluded with another patron while playing blackjack at Live Casino Philadelphia by posting his bet on another patron's wager. The patron then slid checks to Mr. Pak after the patron was paid by the dealer. Second, Mr. Pak posted while playing blackjack at Valley Forge. Mr. Pak was evicted from Valley Forge and was not criminally charged. He previously held a gaming permit in order to work as a security officer at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Mr. Pak was not licensed or employed in the gaming industry at the time of these incidents. At this time, OEC requests that the board place Daishan Pak on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Daishan Pak to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Gregory Wolford on the board's involuntary exclusion list for interactive gaming. Mr. Wolford reported to interactive gaming website Play Live that another individual used his identity and bank account information to fund his account. The account's creation required the user to input name, date of birth, address, social security number, and other information. After making the report, Mr. Wolford attempted to make chargebacks. A review of the matter revealed that the account's creation, previous customer service messages, and the vast majority of the account's IP address captures used the same IP address. Previously, Mr. Wolford made multiple chargebacks on Parks' iGaming platform, and the majority of Mr. Wolford's play on the Parks iGaming platform originated from his registered home address. At this time, OEC requests that the board place Gregory Wolford on the board's interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Gregory Walford to the PGCB involuntary interactive gaming exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda is a request to place John Tremblay on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Tremblay stole a cell phone from a patron at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. After surveillance located Mr. Tremblay inside the casino, security approached him and the cell phone was returned. No criminal charges were filed. In a separate incident, Mr. Tremblay stole a voucher from a patron and cashed it out at the main cage inside Live Casino Philadelphia. While surveillance was tracing the patron's steps, Mr. Tremblay stole a cell phone from another patron before leaving the casino. And he was eventually, Mr. Tremblay returned, he left the casino but later returned in the evening and was stopped by security at the entrance. The cell phone was returned and Mr. Tremblay paid restitution for the voucher. The Pennsylvania State Police charged Mr. Tremblay with summary disorderly conduct, and Mr. Tremblay was permanently evicted from both casinos. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place John Tremblay on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of John Tremblay to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dustin Miller on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel, MILLER. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition for the placement of Tran Fook on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Tran Fook drove off property at Hollywood Casino at Penn National against the instructions of Hollywood Casino security after being ejected for being overly intoxicated, struck a vehicle in the Hollywood Casino parking garage, then fled the scene of the accident. Mr. Fook was criminally charged and pled guilty to leaving the scene of an accident involving damage to an unattended vehicle or property and operating a vehicle without inspection, both summary offenses. This time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Tran Fook on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the addition of Tran Fu to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition for the placement of Sean Roberts on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Sean Roberts capped and pinched wagers a total of 14 times while playing blackjack at Live Casino Philadelphia, resulting in a loss to the facility of $425. This time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Sean Roberts on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Sean Roberts to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition for the placement of Ashley Rodriguez on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Ashley Rodriguez stole $500 that rightfully belonged to another patron at Mount Airy Casino by taking the $500 that was accidentally left behind at a ticket redemption unit by the patron. Ms. Rodriguez was charged with theft and was admitted to the Accelerated Rehabilitative Disposition Program. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Ashley Rodriguez on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Ashley Rodriguez to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition for the placement of Jamie Strayer on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Jamie Strayer assaulted another patron and a casino employee in the parking lot of Live Casino Pittsburgh. He then brandished a large knife and threatened the casino employee before being arrested by Pennsylvania State Police. He was criminally charged and pled guilty to simple assault and tampering with evidence. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Jamie Strayer on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Jamie Strayer to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The final matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition for the placement of Shockey Wilson on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Shockey Wilson pass-posted, capped, and pinched wagers on 4 occasions while playing blackjack at Harrah's, Philadelphia, resulting in a loss to the facility of $225. He was criminally charged with 4 violations of the Gaming Act for his actions. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Shockey Wilson on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the addition of Shockey Wilson to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz second.
Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you. That concludes our business. Before I end, I'd like to wish Commissioner Mustio well and thank him for all his support and just offer some advice. Growing up in Louisiana, I was taught at an early age that if an alligator is chasing you, Commissioner Mustio, run in a zigzag. And also, if you're cornered by one, grab him around the mouth before he opens his mouth. Other than that, I wish you well.
Thank you, and I hope I don't have to use any of that advice.
That concludes today's meeting. The next public meeting of the board will be held on Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023 at 10 a.m. at this location. And now, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, it's my pleasure to move for an adjournment.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.